On today's Comfort Kills episode, our guest's misdiagnosis in 2018 caused a ripple effect of loss of independence, his coaching business, and his social life. But Mike Shoreman did not allow the rare disease known as Ramsay Hunt Syndrome affect his ability to stand back up again. In a 2019 Speaker Slam competition, Mike shared the message about the power of positivity, won the competition, and went viral across the globe with his speech performance and hashtag Paddles Up movement among the SUP community. He put pen to paper and released his book in 2020 and is here to share with us his story of grit and perseverance as the Unbalanced Paddleboarder. Hi, Mike. I'm so excited to have you here on Comfort Kills today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Justin.
Thank you so much for joining me. I have been trying to get you on the show for a while, and we've even had a chance to meet. And I was just like, oh my goodness, he is just like, so many people are resonating with the story, and you're being pulled left and right. And I'm just like, can I just get a minute with you? So I'm so excited you're taking the time out to be here with me today. So why don't you tell our guests a little bit about yourself, who you are, what your journey has looked like thus far? I know that's a big question.
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I loved meeting you. We had a chance meeting back in November, and that was amazing.
Yes.
So yeah, I was a paddleboarding coach with Paddle Canada, which is the national governing body of the sport of paddleboarding, and I did it professionally. And I had a business set up, and everything was going great. And then I developed this neurological condition. And in a period of 5 days, my face collapsed on the right side. Permanent hearing damage, speaking problems because of the paralysis, vision problems because of my eye was impaired.
Right.
But most devastating was from that misdiagnosis was that I missed my 72-hour window for treatment. It's called Ramsay Hunt Syndrome, and it's a reactivation of your chickenpox virus.
Right.
And it attacked my facial nerve.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, it affected my sense of balance,
Right.
which was the most devastating, considering what I did professionally.
Exactly.
And so I, in a very short period of time, I lost my independence. I lost my business. I lost my social life, and I think that's resonating with many right now, because people are experiencing profound loss with what's currently going on.
Yeah.
And I went into this big depression, a lot of mental health, just a lot of grief,
right.
and a lot of sadness and rage. And I shut down. And mentally, I wasn't talking about it. I wasn't dealing with it. And there was a lot of stress activated my condition. And I was dealing with a lot of stress. I was worried, oh, it's going to come again, and it's going to hit me even worse.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of anxiety, and I thought I didn't want to go on. I went into that Christmas thinking it was going to be my last Christmas. I didn't want to go on in this new normal that I was living. And it pushed me to the brink. I had a breakdown, and at the request of my family, I sought mental health treatment. And I went to stay in a crisis center, like a mental health treatment facility.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there that I started processing the grief. There was a lot of things that led to that moment.
Right. Yeah.
But it was there that I started really kind of processing it.
Mm-hmm.
And just days earlier, doctors said, you're not going to fly again. You're not going to drive again. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to paddleboard again. It's going
Right.
to make you really sick, and
Yeah.
it's not going to work. So so then about a month later, I got this invite. I had previously been
Mm-hmm.
a water safety expert
Yeah.
for the Canadian Safe Boating Council.
Mm-hmm.
So right before Memorial Weekend,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the symbolic weekend where boaters start going out,
Yeah. Yeah.
the Canadian Safe Boating Council does this media day where they invite all the media.
Uh-huh.
And I had been their safety expert for paddleboarding and for boating and for all this, and
Mm-hmm.
they invited me back, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go because I didn't want to lose that, but also I wasn't in a position. I'd just gone off using a cane.
Yeah.
After, I'm still in
Mm-hmm.
significant recovery, and relearning how to walk.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go, so I invited some friends, and I kind of passed the torch to them.
Yeah.
And when everybody left that day, my friend said, why don't you just try sitting on a board for a few minutes?"
Uh-huh.
And vertigo and dizziness is a big part of my condition, so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes I feel like I'm on a carousel.
Yeah. Oh.
um, and I was hesitant, but I said yes,
Right.
and I sat down for 3 minutes,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. It was
Uh-huh.
one of the best 3 minutes
Yeah.
I've had ever.
Oh. Yeah.
And that 3 minutes gave me the confidence and the power to try sitting down for 5 minutes the next
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did it again, and
Yeah.
that led to 7 minutes. And then
Oh.
I tried standing up a few months later.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
and then I entered what's now North America's largest inspirational speaking competition.
Right. Yeah.
And um, and I realized after I entered it, it was passed on from a friend who said, "You need to do this."
Uh-huh.
Um, and I realized after I'd submitted it that it was all professional speakers,
Uh-huh.
people who've done
Intimidating.
TED
Yeah.
Talks,
Yeah.
and I thought, I've never done a speech like this. What have I done? What have I
Right.
done?
Oh.
Um, and then I found out that I was accepted, and that I was competing
Mm-hmm.
for this title and these prizes, and I had to give this speech, um, which was actually great timing for me
Uh-huh.
because I was in recovery, so I was at home a lot.
Yeah.
I was at home all the time, so all
Right.
I had to do
Was work on the
was
speech.
work on the speech.
Yeah.
So I really committed to that,
Mm-hmm.
and then I gave that in August 2019,
Uh-huh.
and my goal was to inspire and
Mm-hmm.
uplift,
Mm-hmm.
a few people in a room of 300,
Mm-hmm.
and I won, which was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I told the story of, um, the speech is called "I Said Yes,"
Uh-huh.
and it can be found online. It went viral on several platforms,
Yes,
like
it did.
Ashton Kutcher's platform,
Uh-huh.
put it up, and Jay Shetty and Power of
Yeah.
Positivity,
Yeah.
and it's got millions of views, and it's
Right.
about power and confidence and saying yes to yourself when you don't think you can do something,
Uh-huh.
and how every time you kind of knock off a yes, it gives you the confidence to go on to your next yes
Mm-hmm.
until you're at the point where you stop saying no to yourself.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Um, and it's just led to this whole thing that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a crazy journey.
It has been. And I've been following you along the way. And when your video went viral, and it was in the sub community, because I'm not by any means an avid stand-up paddleboarder, but I do have one, and I live in Miami, and I do go out there from time to time. And I wish I could go out there more often. But just finding time and, finding calmer waters to do it in and everything. But I saw it shared in the stand-up paddleboarding community, and I think I've reshared that thing so many times, and I've had to go back to your profile, find the link, and share it. But I fell in love with the message that you were presenting to everybody on that. I mean, I was such a fan. I even went and bought the cowabunga hat on eBay that week. I have it upstairs, and it's just I was just his message is just so amazing. When you feel like life has just been pulled from under you, and when you realize that, is life worth it anymore if I don't have what I really enjoy doing so much? And all these questions you start asking yourself, but you came out there, you were so courageous, you were so brave, and just sharing your story of resilience and just doing all that. It was just so amazing. You're such an amazing human being, and your message has resonated with the world. And I'm not surprised at all.
I think what we are all experiencing this year, I've been interviewed a lot lately, and what comes up for me most is that what I went through was kind of like my national championships, preparing me, like the isolation and the mental health and job loss, and I had tons of booked paid speaking engagements that were suddenly canceled last spring when the pandemic hit. So I was affected too, like everybody is. But what I think people are seeing most in this story now is that it's very applicable to the times that we're all living.
Yes, absolutely.
And at any time, we can be knocked off our paddleboards, whether we're paddleboarders or not.
Right.
And it's about climbing back on, and even if you don't stand up right away, you're on it, and not giving up. And I think that's that's we're in a time where many people are struggling, and many people need to fight. And I'm really happy that this story is now kind of breaking out, and that it's helping.
And that's a great reminder, is that it doesn't take a diagnosis of Ramsay Hunt syndrome for somebody to be able to understand the message and be able to hear it and let it inspire them to persevere and become more resilient in whatever their situation is, through grief and loss. And everybody grieves and in a different type of way. Everybody handles mental health in a different kind of way. And so very, very important message. I know a couple of years ago, I ended up with a bout of sciatica, and that for me was extremely debilitating. I was unable to walk. We couldn't go to Walmart, and I couldn't make it past the front half of the store without standing there holding on to a clothing rack and just crying from the pain. And I felt like life was just done and over with at that time. There was nothing I could do to resolve the pain. I refused to take the medication because all it did was mask the pain. And as soon as the medication wore off, here I am back in pain again. And it was just so awful. But then being able to, and I think the person who really saved me at that time, and I'll say it over and over again, is my chiropractor. I found a chiropractor. I called. It happened to be the chiropractor to who picked up the phone that day, where normally he has an assistant answering the phone calls, and he just talked me through it. He's like, "What are you doing to relieve the pain? What are they giving you?" And then I told him I use heat compress. And then he said, "Well, are you using wet or dry?" And I was like, "Well, I use a dry one. It's like a rice one that I microwave and use." And he's like, "Try using a wet heat compress, because that actually penetrates more." And he was just giving me words of advice and gave me hope. And that's what I needed, was hope. I needed somebody to give me just that ounce of hope, so that I can say, okay, I can do something about this. There's a solution to this problem.
Yeah.
And so incredibly, incredibly important.
Yeah. No, I think that condition is a part of the story, but the speech and everything is told in a way that is universal.
Exactly.
And what I've noticed most is that I hear from I when that speech went viral and got millions of views, there were thousands of comments on like 18 different platforms.
Yeah.
And tons of private messages and emails, and I still get them.
Yeah.
And it's from people message and say, "I have Parkinson's. I have multiple sclerosis. My dad is going through chemotherapy." Like, so many different, like, I heard your speech, and I see myself in that. So I think it doesn't matter where you come from or what you're facing. We all go through struggles.
Right.
And it's about how we choose to face them.
Right.
And kind of the mindset that goes with that. So.
Right. So if somebody finds themselves in a similar situation, no matter the diagnoses, but they're now having the mental health secondary to whatever it is that they're going on, that's going on in their life, what was the pivotal point when your family finally said, "All right, enough is enough, we're intervening"? Is there, sometimes maybe people and their surroundings aren't as intuitive. Like, what type of advice do you give for the actual person if they're starting to have these thoughts of, "I just can't do this anymore. It's not for me anymore"? What do you have to say to them?
So I would go back in my story. There's not many things that I would change, because I don't really believe in regrets. I think, everything kind of happens for a reason. And everything's led to what it has now. And I'm really grateful for that. So I went through a very dark period. And it's led to the current situation. But what I would say is that when you feel yourself shutting down, grab on to whatever life preserver is being thrown. If a friend calls you, pick up the phone. What I wish I had done differently is practice gratitude, which is something that I do a lot now. I do a lot of journaling. And it's really hard to be grateful for something when your life is imploding. But there are always things to be grateful for. And there were things that I should have been grateful for then that I didn't realize I was grateful for until it was almost too late. There were my family had to look after me, and yes, I lost a business, but I had a family to look after me,
Yeah.
and I was fully capable of running my own business, which, if you think about it, you're fully capable to run another business.
Right. Right.
But at the time, it got so dark that I didn't see a way out of it. And it was just kind of like the waves just kept on crashing on top of me. And so, yeah, I would say gratitude practicing, even if it's hard, just coming up with one thing every day that you're grateful for. The company of if you're being looked after by family, the company of your family.
Right.
If you're, in a house, being grateful for feeding, for food.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that, and I think that's incredible advice, and it's such a simple concept for anybody to practice. It doesn't take it doesn't take a high IQ or anything to just say, I am grateful for this roof over my head. I am grateful for the water that I am consuming, the fresh, clean water that I'm consuming. And those little things are just, even as simple as they may seem, are so impactful in your own life, because then that just gets going one more day. And all you have to do is just take it one day, one moment at a time. So thank you.
And gratitude brings abundance. So when you are channeling that energy into out into the universe, whatever, it comes back. Because you are in a place mentally where you are open to receive. No, I think gratitude, and I think even more so, not just saying it, but writing it. When you're writing it, you're taking an action and you're putting it into motion. So just, writing, even if it's just a sentence. Every day, something that you're grateful for.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect. And it's a perfect segue into the next topic, which is your book, which I have here. I read this thing in like no time. I think like a day and a half maybe, and that's only a day and a half because I had to sleep in between. But as you and I, we both are like, I feel like you don't sleep either, which I don't feel like I get enough sleep. And then here we are messaging each other like at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's funny, but I love it. And I enjoy those little conversations. But yeah, so I read this in like a day and a half, and it was just such a great read. Like, your introduction had me completely like hooked from the very beginning. And I can't even, so let's start with why you felt the need. I know that you're inspired by just getting your story out there and those people who have reached out to you. But now putting pen to paper, please tell me more about just your thought process going into this.
So I wanted to tell the story mostly because I thought, the speech helps so many people.
Yeah, it did.
What could a book do?
Exactly. Yeah.
And what kind of impact would that make? And what kind of difference would it make? And the story didn't end with the speech. The story kept going a little. The story is still going, but but I thought, there are people who listen to the speech, but they don't know what happened afterwards. And what happened afterwards is one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. That's been covered in the news tons. So if it's being covered in the news, then it's a value. It's important. So why not write about it and give that to people, because it can help. So the speech was in August 2019, and I'd been journaling, through the summer, and leading up to it, and so I'd already started the process of writing,
Mhm.
um, and then it got picked up by a publisher, and pretty fast,
Mhm.
and the whole development. So it's been a whirlwind what's happened these last few months.
Yeah.
It's at Barnes and Noble, it's at Books a Million, it's like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It's a great message. There's a great message behind it. And I think, I mean, okay, so without giving away the entire book, but there's a section, so even just the introduction, I was able to get something out of that, right? And like I was, it's just, so you're a child, you're running from geese. Something as simple as just a cute childhood story. But then it comes to the realization as an adult that the power isn't in running, you say, the power is in stillness.
Mm,
And this is incredibly, incredibly relevant to what's going on in our world right now is everything just kind of came to a complete screeching halt. You know, our life as we knew it, how we conducted ourselves, how we had to express ourselves through the smile on our lips to the touch that we in interaction with people have completely just came to a complete stop. We can't smile anymore because our face are covered. It should be at least. You know, we can't touch anymore. We can't shake hands anymore to greet. And so all you have are your eyes
yep.
and and body language. And but now I think so many people, like you were saying, how relevant this is to during our pandemic is people are realizing just taking a break and stopping where you are, being in this moment and just starting to see everything around you as it is. And, you know, what can you improve on? What can you change? What can you do differently? You know, what can be done differently around you?
Yeah.
And
Mm, yeah.
it's been pretty incredible, pretty incredible.
Yeah. No, I think for so much of our lives, we're
Mhm.
so on the go. We're so busy. We've got to get this done. How many times do you hear from somebody, "Oh, I can't. I'm too busy." I mean,
Yeah.
like we say it all the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine, because I am a workaholic. Like I work a lot. And he said, "Mike, like, how many days a week do you want to work?" And I
Mhm.
said, 4. And he said, "Do you really want to work 4 or do you want to work 3?" And I said, "No, I want to work 4 because
Uh-huh.
I love working."
Yeah.
Um, and he said, "Okay,
Mhm.
well then work 4 days a week, but put your phone down and don't
Mhm.
do emails, don't do podcasts, don't do interviews, don't do public speaking, don't
Mhm.
do all these things on those, like, condition yourself."
Mhm.
And I've started applying that now.
Good.
But I think we spend so much of our lives running through life, whether it's
Mhm.
running from something or running to something,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, that when we stop, it's
Mhm.
incredibly powerful.
Mhm.
Um, and amazing things can happen from just slowing down,
Mhm.
um, and kind of taking notice of what's going on around us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Whether, for me, it was a forced stop. Um, that decision was made for me by my body.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
um, if we can mentally stop before our health forces us to,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah,
that can be a great thing.
yeah. And in your stories, the trip that you made to India, and by the way, F the boyfriend. Just, you know, I just wanted to make sure I got that part in. But but the so the part where you're in India and you're traveling through the country, and is it Goa? Is that how you pronounce it?
Go
Goa?
on. Go on.
The experience that you had at the restaurant day one
Yeah.
versus the repeat experience that you had the next time you went back. Can we
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit? And
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
the realization of what mankind is like, in general?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so why don't you go ahead and tell us in your words, because I don't want to have to give away. I don't know how much of this you want me to say, or
Yeah.
it's just
So
such
I
great.
went to a restaurant, and I was sitting with a bunch of tourists from different
Mhm.
countries, just travelers, and we're having dinner and nice ambiance and just kind of getting to know each other, where we're all from, different cultures. And we heard this noise, and there was this local man, and he'd crashed outside the restaurant on his bike,
Uh-huh.
and he was crying like he was on the pavement, and he had eggs all around him, like broken eggs, and he was crying, my eggs, and we all rushed out to help him because he was elderly, and we
Yeah.
picked him up, and we all gave him money to cover the cost of his eggs, and he walked off with his
Yeah.
bike,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed the restaurant so much that I went back the
Mhm.
next night,
Right.
and I was by myself this time. I wasn't with people,
Hmm.
and and all of a sudden I heard the same noise. I heard
Uh-huh.
the crash, and I heard the my eggs, and I was so angry.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was yeah,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
rage.
Bamboozled.
I was I've been scammed, I've been had,
Hmm.
and I didn't help him
Hmm.
because I was
You knew better.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I carried that with me. I
Hmm.
talk about it in the book that I carried that with me for quite a
Hmm.
while I was in India until I let it go.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, no, it was a very strange experience.
Uh-huh. It was. And I read that and I was angry for you, and I'm just like, ah. And then, of course, if it's happening at the same place at a similar time, then this means that everybody around you, the locals who own the businesses in that area, are also well aware.
Yeah,
And so, who's in this? Is it
yeah,
just him or is it a
yeah,
group effort?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's
Are
so
there
insane.
are he is he,
Yeah.
giving them like a cut? Like what's going on here?
Exactly, exactly. That's what I thought. I was like, "Oh, they're all in this together.
Yeah,
They're all in
yeah.
this together."
Yeah,
But
this is a well-oiled machine.
yeah, yes. So, but and that's something that like we encounter that every day in our lives. No
Every
matter what country, what city, what anywhere you're at, I feel like you always get that. I remember one time we were in North Carolina, we were going to a museum, and my in-laws were with us, and a lady approached her, and we'd been living in this area for a little while now, and so the lady approached my mother-in-law, was like, ma'am, I need money for my kids, I need diaper money, I need formula money, and my mother-in-law was like, oh, okay, let me, and then she pulls out money, out of the goodness of her own heart, she goes out, gives her money, and we're just looking at her like, you shouldn't have done that. You should not have done that. She's like, she needs to feed her babies too. And if I can do this, I will. And we're like,
Mm.
okay. So we go in, we tour the museum, we come back out. Here she is again. I need more money from like
Yeah,
across the parking lot. And we're
yeah,
just like,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
just, it happens everywhere. And we're
Oh,
all like, we all want to trust and believe in people so much that we
yeah.
don't
No,
see.
no, I think naturally we look for the good in people.
Yes. Yeah.
We want to see it. We want to believe it,
Uh,
and and it is there. It
yeah.
is there. It's not that it's not there. It is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, but it took me time
Mhm.
to come to terms with why he was doing
Yeah. Yeah.
that,
Right.
and what that was doing for him, and who he was supporting,
Mhm.
and coming to the realization that this was his job, and he probably was supporting a big family,
Right.
and this was his way of doing that. and yeah, no, there was some a mind shift in what I'd thought
Right.
that night that I was angry, that second night, to the time that I got on the plane to come back home again.
Yeah, yeah. And that's incredibly mature of you because I don't know how I would have reacted in that very moment, or if that had personally happened to me, how I would continue to think of that situation when I think back to it. And I think that's incredibly mature of you to say, oh, maybe this is just his hustle and he has a family that he really has to support, and this is the only means that he has to do it. And you're right, maybe that is the case. And but it would take me a really long time to come to that revelation for sure. I would still be telling that story with a angry tone from time to time, years later. But yeah, that's crazy. But of course, details are in the book, so make sure you grab a book and read that. But I definitely wanted to touch on, what was it? Oh, goodness. So the multiple misdiagnosis, and I hate having to come back to this because I feel like we're on such a great topic now, but because it's so heavy, right? It's such a heavy topic. It's just a past that you really don't want to remember. But the misdiagnosis was just, it was difficult. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, nobody ever wants to hear that you missed a window for treatment, when you didn't have to.
Right. Yeah.
And it was their admittance that
Wow.
things didn't go to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that fueled the rate. I think it would be different if it wasn't, if that was never said, but it was. So I was aware from that moment where, the face collapsed, I couldn't walk, all of this, and then boom, we could have done it differently. It
Wow.
put it in my mind.
Right.
And I'm being sent for MRIs to rule out brain damage and all of these things. And every appointment that I'm going to, it just builds and builds and builds, and I get angrier and in more despair, and yeah, it was a really tough time. I really feel for people who are missed in the system, who go through the system trusting
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
because when you go into a doctor's office, when you go into, anywhere where you're looking for the big answers, you're putting your trust and your faith in them.
Yes.
And it has taken, I think I'm very trusting now, after going through that. I'm definitely more thorough. If I had to go to a hospital because something wasn't right, and something, if I just felt like something wasn't right with me, I would fight. I would fight for tests. I would fight for everything, knowing what I went through. But I really feel for people who are missed and who go through things like that.
Wow, yeah. And I think that's a very important message for everybody to hear again, is to be an advocate for yourself, and
We are our own greatest advocates.
exactly. And as a healthcare professional myself, we're humans. We make mistakes. We don't know everything. And people come to us, to the healthcare field, to the emergency room, to the hospital, with the fullest of trust, saying, I'm here, please help me. And and it's in our power as the healthcare providers, to do our due diligence and go through the motion and do as much as we can to make sure that we've ruled out almost everything, if not everything, and it's so important.
I probably made 3 mistakes this morning. Everybody makes mistakes. So it is our responsibility to be on top of it as best as we can. Unfortunately, I was 5 days into excruciating pain. I couldn't walk and I was vomiting all over the place.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in
the right mindset to really.
mindset.
Yeah.
No, I definitely feel for people who go through the system and come out the other side feeling like like they were wronged.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
100%. So Mike, if I give you a billboard, what would it say? What would your billboard say to the world?
It would say, light it up.
Light it up. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, like when I started the paddleboarding business, I did it because I wanted to give people the experience to light up the water. And to be stars on the water. And then when I did the speech, the message was kind of go out and light up the world.
Yeah.
So I think my billboard would say light it up.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. No, I think it's a great message, and I think it's important for people to go big, you know.
Go big.
Yeah, go big, go real big, light it up. I love it.
The only person that's standing in anyone's way is themselves.
Yep.
We put so many limitations on ourselves, like what we can do, what we can't do, what we're capable of.
Yeah.
But if we can, a lot of us deal with, imposter syndrome, and can we achieve that? The answer is yes, we can.
Yeah, of course.
It might take longer to get there than some people, but yes, we can all do the things that we want to do and accomplish these things. So I think everybody has the ability to go out and shine their brightest. For me, it was a stage. Not everybody wants to do it on a stage. Your stage is in a doctor's office. Your stage is, in a museum, like wherever. But light it up and be the best version of yourself and change the world that way.
Absolutely. I love it. That's so comfort kills. I'm just going to have to coin all of that you just said. But that's the whole purpose behind comfort kills, right? Is to just tell everybody that, don't be complacent. Don't be comfortable with where you are, because there's still more room to grow. There's still more room to evolve. And no matter the situation that you find yourself in, there's always a way to get out of it. You just have to want it bad enough, and quit telling yourself, like back to the imposter syndrome, I can't do it. It's not for me. I don't have the tools. I don't have the resources. You do. Just figure out how to do it and how to get there and navigate your way through all of this. And eventually you'll get to where you want to be. So absolutely. Thank you. So Mike, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you that you'd love to chat about?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you've covered a lot. Great questions.
Thank you.
I've loved this.
Awesome.
No, it's just nice to get together and hang out.
I agree.
When you came to the book fair, and it was so nice connecting with you. And I felt like I knew you from like we'd gone way back.
Yeah.
So no, this was very nice. It's always nice hanging out with you.
Yes, thank you.
And no, thank you.
Do you have more plans for your book tour, or do you have like a big agenda ahead of you, or are you taking a break for a little bit?
So not taking a break. Taking a break 3 days a week.
3 days.
But no, right now we're focused on media, doing like a media tour. So last week I was on CBS with the book. Next week I'm on CTV Calgary.
Wow.
Live. Then I'm on NBC in New York,
Goodness.
and I'm doing Global Morning. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of media shows right now.
Yay.
And then there's a big campaign coming, a big media campaign coming in the spring. But
Oh, fun.
just a really kind of exciting time.
That's
And
good.
I'm very, very grateful.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So where can our Comfort Kills listeners find you? Where's the best place for them to go and find you?
Right. So they can find me on Instagram.
Okay.
My handle is at the Unbalanced Paddleboarder. I'm also on Twitter.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook page. It's Mike Shoreman, the Unbalanced Paddleboarder. You guys can find me there. The book is available at Barnes and Noble. I recommend getting it online rather than going into the store, because I'm trying to, keep people out of going into stores right now.
Yeah.
But Barnes and Noble, you can grab it on their website.
Okay.
Amazon, Books a Million, and yeah, that is everything.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for spending your afternoon with me and taking the time out to do that. I see an official blue check coming soon in your future with your social media account. So you are such an amazing person, and you have such an inspiring story. And I regret that it took a misdiagnosis to get you here, but I feel like I feel like your message is well worth the hear, and the world needs to meet more Mike Shoremans, or the Mike Shoreman, and just keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for being so amazing.
Thanks. Thank you.